91.0's new season of The Stars.
Hey Kevin, lovely to meet you.
And you, how are you?
I'm good. Have you been to New Zealand?
I've never been. I've almost done a couple of gigs in New Zealand, and they've never worked out or not panned out, so I'd love to go.
Because doesn't everybody in Scotland have cousins in New Zealand? Isn't that kind of a rule?
I think so. I've got relations in Perth in Australia, but I don't have anybody in New Zealand. But I hear the topography is very similar to Scotland.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and the attitude's very the same.
The what?
The attitude's very the same.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, great.
But I think Scotland, everybody said, no, Scotland isn't quite dour enough, let's go right to the bottom of the world. You know?
Right. For the people that are really miserable.
Yeah. So what was it like for you growing up as a kid in Scotland?
Growing up in Scotland was, I had a great childhood, really. You know, it was very sort of unspoiled. It was in the rural Highlands in Scotland, you know, so we could be out until 9, 10 o'clock at night, you know, in the summertime, and it would still be light and all that stuff, and not have to worry about, you know, the scary guy coming to abduct you, which everybody's terrified of in life nowadays. And yeah, it was a pretty idyllic life, really. We didn't have any money, you know, it was a very poor upbringing, really. But you know, there's a lot of love in the house, and you know, it was a beautiful place to live, you know.
So how did you get from there, rural Scotland, to here, crazy Hollywood?
I don't know, really. I mean, you know, I started acting, I suppose, when I was about 8 years old, and just because I got a part in some little play, and it just a sort of light bulb went off in my head at that point, and then I just pursued that, you know, pretty much up until now, you know, and everybody in my family, there's nobody in the theatrical or artistic world at all, and they were just like, what? You know, they just didn't understand it.
Are you gay?
I think it was that. I think we had that conversation when I was like 15. They were like, you know, what's going on with you? But actually, I was again thankful that my parents were very supportive of that. You know, and they didn't understand it at all. They were like, okay, you do that thing over there, but they didn't block it, which I'm thankful to them for.
Are the Scots like the Kiwis in the way that, you know, it doesn't matter how famous you get, boy, you're still just Kevin?
Yeah,
like
totally.
That,
yeah. I mean, when I go back, you know, there's a pub at the bottom of our road that my dad's local pub, and you know, it's just the same when you go there. It's brilliant, you know, because all those guys, and they all have their spots at the bar, and they never move from year to year. They're always at the same spot, and it is always just the same. So I'm just like the snotty-nosed little kid to them, you know, which is probably true.
Yeah. What sports, were you into sports when you were a kid?
No, really. I mean, I think that was one of the things. My dad was a big football player, and my brother took his talent, and my brother was very close to being signed as a professional football player in Scotland. And I had zero sporting skill at all, and I was just rubbish at it. And I think that's another reason why I went into the acting thing, because, you know, in Scotland, football's a very important thing, and I just couldn't kick a ball. You put a foot on my feet, and I couldn't kick it. So, you know, I played rugby. I was quite good at rugby. Yeah. I was a good second row in rugby. That was the thing. That was my sport, because there's not much skill involved. It's just brute strength, you know.
If I say that to a Kiwi, we think that rugby is the be-all and
oh no, but in second row position,
and
the scrum is like, you know, you're just the kind of engine of the scrum. You're not really, you're not the scrum half. You're not the number 8. You know, those are the guys with the real skill in their hands, and you know.
You'll start an uprising in New Zealand for all the second rowers.
Hey, right.
So, what do you try and live your life by? Do you have a sort of a creed where you think, well, you know, if I do this and if I behave this way, I'll be okay? You know,
I mean, I guess I live life. I probably live life in quite a simple way, really. You know, I've got my wife, my 2 kids. I work hard. I've got a strong work ethic, I think, which is what I got. It was kind of inheritance from my grandfather and my parents. And you know, and always to be kind of grateful for what you've got, and you know, you see a lot of people complaining sometimes in life, and I'm like, I always try and keep myself in check and think how lucky I am, you know, even though it's not all luck, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And I just try and keep life pretty simple, you know.
Was it weird for you to walk onto into a cast that had been so established? Was that like, oh my God, look at all these people?
It really was weird joining a cast, because every other job I've ever done, in fact, I've always been in from day one. And it's a very different dynamic joining a cast and joining a show that is a big hit, and everybody knows what they're doing. There's none of that discovery. Everybody's like, yeah, we've got this now, and you're really this new kid. So it's almost like a ship that's sailing, and you're I'm like hanging off the back of the ship, hoping that I can claw myself onto the deck of the ship to, to become part of this thing. But I've been again lucky that the cast, and they didn't have to be, but they've been very welcoming, very nice to me. So I'm glad that they've been that way.
And they understand your accent, or are they constantly going, sorry, say that again?
No, I think I slow my accent down when I speak to them.
Lovely to meet you, Kevin. Really nice to meet
Pleasure.
you.
ZM TV.
From ZMOnline.com.